Welcome back, everybody. Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. I'm continuing to answer some questions here with my special guest, Mr. Andrew Branca, and he is with the Law of Self-Defense. He's a lawyer that's got some really awesome educational material, great Twitter following. He's a really smart guy, provides some great legal services, legal consultation. If you're ever involved in a shooting, anything like that. He's also got this great book, of course, that we want you to check out. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But I brought him on today to answer some of your questions that you've given me over on Twitter. And thank you guys, by the way. And we're going to be diving into a question for you here today. And thanks for joining me, Andrew.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Outstanding. I know he and I have been Twitter mutuals for some time. And we finally got together to make some content. So I'm super excited to deliver some great answers for your questions with some legal help here, okay? Here's a question that comes from Mr. Raymond Burgos. He says, does the ammo that you use for self-defense, does it affect the case and how it's handled, such as regular ball ammunition versus hollow points versus specialized self-defense labeled ammunition?
So in terms of the black letter of the law, the choice of ammo really shouldn't matter. The law doesn't really care about the form of deadly force you use to defend yourself. The law cares a lot about whether the conditions for the use of deadly force have been met. But once the conditions for deadly force have been met, the law doesn't really care if you're defending yourself with a deadly knife or a gun or a safe dropped from a great height. That's the black letter law. But we have to keep in mind that much of what happens in a courtroom is storytelling. The prosecutor is trying to tell the jury a story, a narrative of guilt. And so when they're looking at that investigative report from the detectives, they're looking for building blocks of a compelling story of guilt for the jury. And I always recommend that your choice of defensive weapons, guns, ammo should be as boring as possible, because if they're not boring, you're handing the prosecutor things to talk about. Another facet here is that if the question is, can X be used against me in court? I don't care what X is. The answer is always yes. The prosecutor is always free to try to talk about almost anything in an effort to make you look bad in front of the jury. And his choices don't have to be rational. So, for example, no matter what ammo you pick, as far as the prosecutor is concerned, it was the wrong ammo. If you used hollow point, he'll say you should have used ball. If you use ball, he'll say you should have used hollow point. So the question isn't so much can he use it against you, but how damaging is it likely to be? It's why I like people to stay boring. So if your local police department carries Gold Dot, well, Gold Dot would be a pretty boring and effective choice for you to carry. If instead you're picking some bizarre sounding ammo that's marketed as, the Soul Taker 45 ACP, well, that's bizarre enough that it's going to attract the prosecutor's eye and give him something to talk about to a jury. It may be ballistically no different than the Gold Dot, but just the marketing label alone will allow him to argue to the jury that you took exceptional care in your choice of ammo to make sure it would be lethal, for example. You just don't want to hand a prosecutor that kind of material to work with.
Yeah, I mean, if a prosecutor walks up and he's holding up a box that says graveyard dead ammo with a giant tombstone and skull on it and skull and crossbones, what's that going to look like versus the same ammo that the police are using? And it is odd. They're going to draw scrutiny no matter what, and I do believe very much in the boring gun type of arrangement. In fact, Barry and I, God rest his soul, we cut a video many years back where we talked about the way that lawyers look at the type of firearm that's used. Do you want a prosecutor to hold up the weapon in question and it be a Vepr 12 with a 30-round drum in it and a red dot optic and a laser and all the gadgets? Now, don't get me wrong, it's an effective tool. It's just a shotgun, and all of us in the know that a shotgun is a shotgun. However, would you prefer them to hold up a police trade-in Remington 870 with a wood stock on it, with a police rack number on it, loaded with some innocuous, buckshot ammo from Winchester, military-grade buckshot ammo or something like that? Which is going to be the least weaponizable against you configuration of defensive tool? The Vepr or the police trade-in shotgun? One could argue, well, I chose a police trade-in shotgun because it was affordable and the police use it. It must be safe and effective, right? The police issue military-grade buckshot. That's what I use. It's going to be a lot harder for a prosecutor to paint you as someone who went out of their way to cause more death and harm than was necessary to end the threat if your choice of a firearm and ammo is just sort of basic. And I've always agreed that you should, for your home defensive unit, should be something pretty basic. That's a great observation. That's probably the most useful observation of this entire video, is not so much the ammo, but maybe even the type of gun that you wind up using. I am a big proponent for people buying like a cheap police trade-in shotgun that's kind of beat up and rusty with some wood furniture, and use that for home defense. For one, they take the gun into evidence, you're only out a few $100. If they do have to take your gun, it's going to be a while before you get it back. So do you want your Benelli M4 with the fancy marine grade finish and all the slick work and everything that's been done on it? Do you want your $3,000 Benelli in lockup in perpetuity potentially, or do you want a police trade-in shotgun that, I got a couple of them, screw it, they can take that one and I'll grab another one out of the safe and have a backup? Just something to think about. That's food for thought.
Yeah, and I want to make clear, I'm not telling people what to choose or not choose for self-defense. If you want to use a VEPR, go ahead, use a
By all
VEPR.
means.
It's your choice to make.
Yeah.
It's your constitutional right to make that decision. I just want people to make informed decisions. So if they're choosing to use something that could be presented as bizarre to a jury, if that's what you want, go ahead and do that. I'll certainly never tell you not to. Just be aware of the risk you're incurring by choosing that particular platform that could be presented to the jury in a negative light.
Andrew, let's talk about Kyle Rittenhouse a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I know you presented some facts about that case earlier. We were talking over breakfast, and we had talked a little bit about Rittenhouse, and you'd mentioned that he used ball ammunition.
Yep.
In his AR.
Right.
Now, one could even, and now look, remember, during the Rittenhouse case, y'all, so many, of course, the prosecution was trying to just, it's an AR, it's an evil black rifle. They're always hyper-focused on the evil black rifle, the AR, right? But then, okay, one would think, well, someone just used ball ammunition, right? So could there possibly be a situation where the prosecutor would somehow give Kyle Rittenhouse a problem for using regular ball ammo? What happened?
It's always the wrong ammo.
It's always the wrong ammo.
So, because Kyle Rittenhouse used ball ammo, the prosecutor argued to the jury that choice was reckless. And if it's reckless and you kill somebody, that's manslaughter. So he was arguing as reckless because we all know, he said to the jury, that ball ammo tends to overpenetrate. So he was creating a risk to everyone who was downrange of the person who was trying to kill him that he was defending himself against. But I assure you that if Kyle Rittenhouse had used hollow point ammo, the prosecutor would have said that was the wrong choice because it's ultra lethal, and a ball ammo would only have left a pencil-sized hole in that person and they may have been able to survive. It's always the wrong choice.
Wow. I never thought about it from that perspective until making this video with Andrew today. I always assumed that, as long as you just use whatever ammo you use, just don't think about it, don't worry about it. But, now it does make me want to consider more strongly what I use. But also, it does sort of free you up in a way to kind of go, use what carry ammo you want. Okay, you want to use what the police use, fine, use what the police use. You want to use ball ammo? Use ball ammo. No matter what it is, they're going to try to weaponize against you one way or the other. I want to piggyback on this question. I'm going to ask another question, Andrew. This one comes from me. And this is a question that's been sort of filtered through my brain through other people asking me, but I'm going to direct it to you since you're here. Some people say that you should never carry hand-loaded ammunition for self-defense in your carry pistol. What are your thoughts on that? A hand-loaded bullet, a bullet you made yourself. You bought the brass, you got the powder, the primer, and you loaded a premium defensive expanding bullet into a case, and you made your own carry ammo. So maybe the pressure, consistency, performance, all of the ballistic capabilities of the round are perfectly in line with the factory offering, but the only difference is you made it yourself.
Sure.
Could one assume that that's somehow malicious in some way to make it yourself?
Well, you run the risk of the prosecutor trying to make that argument. And by the way, I say this as someone who, I was a very active competitive shooter for many decades. I've reloaded well over 100,000 rounds on my Dillon 650 press, so I'm very familiar with the process. And my match ammo that I reloaded myself was extremely reliable, consistent ammo. It was as good or better, as far as I'm concerned, as most factory ammo that's out there, any kind of white box ammo that you might buy in the store. But It is not something a police department would carry. It is not something that goes through a factory quality assurance, quality control type of process. It's something that a prosecutor might argue to a jury. Why wasn't store-bought ammo good enough for this defendant? It's good enough for the police. Why did he have to build something? I'll tell you why. He had to build his own ammo because he wanted it to be exceptionally deadly, deadlier than it needed to be. And honestly, folks, we have such good factory ammo. I personally, in my carry gun, I carry Gold Dot. There's such good factory ammo out there. You're not really getting much of an advantage by rolling your own. So why hand the prosecutor that argument to make when it's really not necessary?
I agree. I think you and I are on the same token right here. So this is a 50 round box of Federal HST. This is my preferred carry load. This is the plus P loading in 124 grain. That is my jam. And you see this box says law enforcement. All right, so this is a 50 round law enforcement box of 124 grain plus P HST. Would I prefer for the prosecutor to hold up a shaky little plastic case with my hand-rolled ammo in it and try to question the thought process of why I made it? Or would I rather them hold this up and my lawyer quickly be able to say, well, that's what the police use. What's the problem here? The police carry it. Why can't we? What's easier?
Right. Maybe 100,000.
Law enforcement.
Right.
If I defend myself against a would-be killer, am I enforcing the law? Am I taking the law into my own hands and defending my life? Am I being the replacement police officer in that moment? Well, I am very much enforcing the law, am I not? I mean, come on. If that's law enforcement. Well, yeah, that's a harder argument to make, right? Well, so that's a good question. I mean, a lot of people ask that sort of stuff. And that's a very common question that people ask is, hey, will my choice of ammo affect the outcome of a case in court? And so there's your answer. I think that covers it pretty well.
And I can tell you personally, I have thousands of my own reloads in my basement, in my gun room, ready to go to a match, and I carry factory ammo.
Mm-hmm. I would always also wonder, everything that we're talking about here, I think we're primarily more or less talking about handgun choices, maybe some rifle choices. What about shotgun choices? Because with shotguns, there's a lot of different ammo that one could use in a shotgun. This would be another question for you, Andrew. You've got everything from birdshot, buckshot, slugs. All right, what if I am woke up in the middle of the night, someone's kicking in my door, and I decide to use my shotgun in a self-defense situation? And what if in the heat of the moment, all you know is you're grabbing your shotgun, you know it's loaded. The shotgun was loaded with bear slugs. The shotgun was loaded with a couple of birdshot loads, buckshot loads. Maybe you don't even remember what was in the gun. All you know is that that's the tool you're going to use at that time. And say you throw an entire candy cane of ammo at someone trying to end the threat, and they have a shotgun slug hole in them and buckshot and no telling what. Or, this probably happens way more often than you might think, old grandpa doesn't even own any self-defense ammo for a shotgun, and the only thing he's got in that thing is some freaking birdshot from the last time he went out to go hunting or whatever, and all he knows is that's the only thing he's got that he can see half well good enough to put a hole in you with, and that's what he chooses to use because that's what he has. How does that sort of shake down in court? I mean, are they going to go, well, you used a hunting slug to shoot a human being? Well, or you're now somehow maliciously, defending yourself?
Generally speaking, shotguns are just observed by a jury as being such ordinary arms for people to have. It's very difficult for a prosecutor to get traction in that way. And of course, it's all deadly force. So as long as the conditions for the use of deadly force have been met, it shouldn't really matter what load you have in the shotgun. I honestly would not be concerned about it at all. I will say this. If you've got buckshot or slug in your shotgun and you're shooting someone, it ought not take many shots before you've neutralized that threat.
No.
I think it was Clint Smith who said that pistols hurt people, rifles kill people, and shotguns take parts clean off of people.
Yeah.
So you do your job with that shotgun, you should be able to handle that conflict pretty decisively.
Yeah. I mean, I like shotguns. When you look at, again, let's use police as an example. All right, we'll let them be the punching bag when we want to, right? That's whatever, right? But why are police used as examples in shootings so often? Because they're involved in shootings more often. Hello? And they're much better documented than civilian shootings, okay? How many police shootings have you seen with a shotgun that didn't end in the perpetrator being unalived? I'll wait. Not many.
Right.
There are very few situations where a shotgun is deployed in a police shooting and the perpetrator doesn't cease to be. Let's put it that way. And usually one shot.
Right.
I mean,
One hit.
There's one very famous police shooting video, and I can't show it here on YouTube because of their rules. However, I'll just mention, I'm sure you've seen it, but it's a video where a guy gets out of a car, he's being extremely irate, and the police officer proceeds to dump about 8 or 10 rounds of 40 Smith & Wesson into the guy's chest before he stops. Those shooting videos help you learn a lot about what the human body can take. You know, the guy, was he on drugs? Was he under some influence of something that maybe gave him some superhuman strength? Were the bullets just missing the boiler room by that much and not causing lethal enough wound in that moment? What caused him to take that many bullets and not perish? But the police officer kept shooting because he had to shoot because the guy kept coming. All right, another similar situation. Guy steps out of the vehicle. Police officer has a patrol shotgun. Listen, y'all. I ain't a lawyer, but it doesn't take a lawyer to figure out that you're not going to hold court on the side of the road with a guy pointing a shotgun at you. If you don't obey the officer's commands in that moment and he shoots you with that shotgun, don't call the ambulance, call the morgue. That guy got shot in the chest with that shotgun. The guy, of course, the cop tried to de-escalate. Stop, backing up, like creating distance. Didn't matter. The guy refused to stop. Now, I don't want to go into the suicide by cop thing, but a lot of people, they know what they're doing. They're trying to die. Let's just remove that from the scenario and just say, okay, guy approached and the police officer shot him with a shotgun. Well, what did you think happened? Well, exactly what you think would happen. The guy dropped like a sack of potatoes. So shotguns have their place, but that's an interesting question to sort of answer. Can that scenario play equally for shotgun ammo as it would for rifle and pistol ammo? So there's your answer to that question. Any other thing you think we might want to add?
The only thing I would say is, of course, when we're talking about a shotgun, it's generally not someone who's walking down the street with a shotgun for self-defense. Generally, you're in your home. That's one of the reasons for such more defensible cases. Where people get in trouble on the street, they're generally using a handgun, so you tend to see these kinds of arguments around the type of ammo more commonly in that scenario.
And I think, honestly, most jurors and also prosecutors feel like perhaps they can pose the question of lethality and the morality of the lethality more effectively with a handgun than they can with some other type of firearm. Mainly just because, maybe we have Hollywood to thank for that, right? Like, Hollywood paints all of these scenarios that criminals, that only criminals have handguns, and that, people don't defend themselves with handguns. Only criminals have handguns. So they use that emotional response that people have to a handgun being used in a crime to paint them as a bad person simply for having the gun in the first place. So you're already at a disadvantage because you used a firearm to protect yourself. You're already on a slightly uphill battle, no matter how clean the shoot might be.
Yeah, it's something to keep in mind. There are still, in America, some really intensive gun control jurisdictions, gun control states, where there are many people in those states who've never seen a gun in real life, much less handled one or shot one. And if they were to see a pistol on a table, they would look at it like you would look at a rattlesnake on a table. So for them, their perception of weapons we consider perfectly normal and ordinary and handle every day is quite different and very visceral.
Yeah, you're right. I'll tell a really quick story, then we're going to let you guys go. Quick story. And it's kind of a little innocent thing, but I was ordering some fast food one night. It was kind of late. It's like maybe, I don't know, midnight or so, and I was pulling through the drive-thru. Well, I had my carry pistol out because I think I had my wallet in my center console, and I was trying to get my wallet out. And unknowingly, I grabbed my carry gun, just sat on the seat beside me, and grabbed my wallet out or whatever. And I didn't think that, I closed the center console and left the pistol, the Glock 19, sitting there. Of course, in a holster, but still, you could plain as day look and see that it was a pistol. Pull up to the window to pay for my food, of course, completely innocently, not knowing, whatever. And the poor kid opened the door to collect my money and just had this look on his face of just complete morbid, deathly fear. I'm thinking, and I asked him, "What's wrong, buddy? You okay?" Like, "We're okay here. I'm just paying you some money here." And he looked, and his eyes shifted from me to the gun in the seat next to me, and then it clicked, and I was like, "Oh." he saw the gun and he got scared. And in that moment, I failed to appreciate just how morbidly afraid some people are of firearms. It was completely innocent on my part. I didn't mean for him to see it, but he did. And his opinion of me changed instantly just by the fact that he saw that gun. Maybe the previous week someone tried to rob the place. Maybe he was experiencing a flashback of, oh my God, this again? Maybe he thought I was going to try to rob him. Or maybe he's just completely morbidly afraid of the sight of a gun. But you have to sometimes keep in the back of your head, some people are just morbidly afraid of the sight of a firearm.
Right.
It was wild. Like, that moment in human behavior taught me something. That little brief exposure, I was like, wow, I didn't realize the power that this gun has over people. And even though I'm not even meaning to cause them any sort of discomfort.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
Yeah, it is. Guys, make sure that you go and follow Andrew on all social media platforms. He's very active on Twitter. I'm going to put his information down below. Obviously, go over to the website and get his book, Law of Self-Defense, right here. Really, really great setup. This one has a forward in it from Masad Ayub. And you were telling me that he's one of the guys that got you into this.
Yeah, many of us, we stand on the shoulders of giants who came before us. I got into this whole self-defense law specialty because I took Mas Ayub's course in 1996, folks. It's been a minute. That what led me to develop my own expertise in self-defense law, write this book, and Mas was kind enough to write the foreword. And by the way, we want to make this book available to all of you for free. You can check it out on Amazon. It's 5-star rated, but don't buy it there. They'll charge you $20 or $25. We want to give you the book for free. Eric's been kind enough to arrange for this. We only ask that you pay the cost of shipping the book to you, but you get the book itself for free at lawofselfdefense.com/8888.
Yeah, or maybe IV8888. But anyway, I'll put the link down in the description box below, along with all of Andrew's contact information. If you are ever involved in some sort of a pickle, definitely reach out to Andrew, and he will point you in the right direction. Make sure that you get the representation that you need, and also his coursework and all the educational materials that he has are so worth it. Definitely check it out, and a big thanks to Andrew and his crew for being a part of what we do, and also and agreeing to answer some questions here on the channel for you. So we've been cutting a lot of videos. I think we're about 3 or 4 in now, and some of these questions are doozies, y'all, and it's so great to have Andrew here to help answer some questions and point you guys in the right direction. So check him out. I'll put the link down below, and send a little love his way. I would greatly appreciate. All right. And Andrew, thanks so much for joining me, man.
Absolutely a pleasure.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been following each other a long time on Twitter, so I'm so glad that we were able to get together and make some content. So, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. Let me know down in the comment section below, what are your questions for Andrew? And maybe in the future we'll revisit and do some more filming and answer some of your questions. So thanks so much. Many more videos on the way. We'll see you soon.